Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I want to talk about the infrastructure program that the Biden administration is now preparing for Congress to consider. It is reputed to be in the neighborhood of $3 trillion over several years, maybe as many as 10. It comes on the heels of the $1.9 trillion relief program, American Rescue, or whatever you want to call it. And so if you put the two together and we assume a bit of a paring down by the Republicans in Congress, we're talking something in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 trillion being spent on rescue, relief, and infrastructure. Before I talk about what this means and why we're even talking about this, spending more on infrastructure than anything else, I want to put it in a context that helps us understand whether this is a big amount of money, as the Biden folks would have us believe, and the Republican opponents would have us believe, or not. And here's a comparison you might want to think about. During the year 2020, which started off with a so-called booming economy, which was then laid low by the COVID viral pandemic, which occupied the rest of that year, 2020. Over that year, one of the major indices of stock market performance indicated that in general and overall, adding up all the stocks sold and traded on the stock market, the value of stock holdings in the United States went up about $9 trillion. This is in the year 2020, when we had somewhere between 50 and 60 million Americans facing longer or shorter periods of unemployment, in which millions are still without work, millions more having to take jobs at lower pay, less security, and fewer benefits than they had before, using up whatever savings they might have had, etc. Mass loss for the mass of people, and a booming stock market that gained $9 trillion. And who exactly got the gain? Let's remember, 84% of the stocks, both those held directly and those held in funds of various kinds, are owned by the richest 10% of the American people. So when you hear about a booming stock market, that is very good news for the top 10% and not for the rest of us. So 2020 was a $9 trillion improvement for the richest people in the country. Compare that to $1.9 trillion in the American Rescue Plan, and perhaps another $2.5 trillion for infrastructure. Not that that will go to the mass of people, as I'll explain in a minute, but it's a context you should keep in mind. Who is getting helped during these hard times a lot, and who isn't? You and I aren't. Now, why do we have an infrastructure problem in America? Why are our roads, our electric wires, our harbors, our train systems, and so on in such bad shape? Well, that too is a product of our capitalist system. You know, the one that gets praised on 4th of July for being innovative and efficient and dynamic and all the rest of it. Here's how it actually works. Politicians, desperate to be elected, pander. They pander first and foremost to the most important folks for them, corporate CEOs and the rich, the ones who donate most of the money that pays for their campaigns, for their parties, and for the lobbyists who do 3/4 of the work they're supposed to do. They don't want to raise their taxes. That's the deal. We'll give you donations, we'll hire and pay the lobbyists, you don't tax us. So in order not to tax them, they have to do what? Two things. shift as many taxes as they can onto the rest of us, those who earn their income by working, those who have to pay a cigarette tax, a beer tax, a gas tax, for whom that actually matters, as opposed to the rich, for whom it doesn't. And the other thing, here we go now, the other thing politicians do when they don't want to raise taxes on corporations and the rich is they don't try to raise taxes on the rest of us either, lest we get angry. So they don't have more money coming in to offset the loss in taxes because they won't tax corporations and the rich. And with less money coming in, they can spend less. And one of the areas where they can spend less is on, you guessed it, infrastructure. Nobody notices if you don't maintain the roads. Or to be more accurate, they don't notice for a while. And in a while, you will have gone on to a higher job politically than the one you have now, where you're supposed to keep track of the roads and the railroad quality and the bridges, and you fix the picture in your mind. In our system, we incentivize the neglect of our infrastructure until it gets so bad. In recent years, American civil engineers have given the American infrastructure a C- grade every year in their review. It gets so bad and so dangerous and so costly that we finally do something. Do we change the system that produces this crazy result? Absolutely not. We throw money at the problem, wondering why it never gets fixed. And that's what we're about to do. Give a lot of money to companies, not working people, companies who repair or rebuild infrastructure. Much of that they will take, as always, to pay out to their shareholders and to give wonderful pay bonuses to their top executives. And some of it will trickle down. But will it change the basic injustice and unfairness of our infrastructure maintenance program or of the unequal society that corrupts everything? No. Biden's not prepared to do that. He, after all, says he wants to get back to the pre-Trump normal. And that's what the pre-Trump normal was, and that's why we're in the pickle that we're once again not solving. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.